What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. We're in the final game week of the season, which means a few of you are chasing down your ranks, you're chasing down your friends and your mini league rivals. Today, I'm having a look at a few differentials that I think can help you do that. Welcome back, everyone. FPL Harry here, and today it is time to have a look at some top Game Week 38 differential punts. A few players with low ownership that not many people are going to be bringing into their teams as well, which is also quite a crucial part. There might be differentials in Game Week 37, but if they're bid bandwagons going into Game Week 38, they're not going to be included in this video, like the likes of Eze at Crystal Palace, for example, who might be a differential now. He will not be a differential come the Game Week 38 deadline. I still think he's a good pick, but he's not going to be in this team. We're going to go through effectively a team of players one by one. I'll talk you through them, why I think they're a differential, why I think they're a good option, any potential risk that you have. Now, of course, some of these may depend a little bit on team news and if we get any updates on whether they're going to start or not, because some of the reason they may be lowly owned is they haven't started that many games this season, or they aren't consistent starters, which means they aren't necessarily a player we want to pick in FPL. But if they start with a little bit of rotation on the final day, they could be a really nice pick. So let's dive into it. Before we do, try and hit 1,000 likes on the video. I know we're getting towards the end of the season. I'm crazy. I'm just editing my final graphics of the season. I never thought this point would come. Of course, we'll be back again next year as well to try and do it all over again. So if you haven't subscribed as well, please make sure you've done that. But the goalkeeper that we've got in this differential draft is a 3-5-3. I've struck the rules a little bit to try and fit in an extra player that I wanted, but we're going with Pickford in goal. Now, if I'm looking for a punt in goal, it's one of two goalkeepers this week. So either Jordan Pickford or it is Ramsdale, but I look at both of them and think which of them has the highest potential to haul out of the Arsenal goalkeeper, who's unlikely to make that many saves and get that many bonus points at home to Wolves, or I go and pick up Jordan Pickford at home to Bournemouth. The clean sheet isn't necessarily that nailed on, but if he does, the haul potential is there. Everton, one of the few teams that still has something to play for between now and the end of the season. Bournemouth are on the beach. We saw that in their performance against Manchester United and how they rotated a little bit. So if they do win that game or even draw that game and there is a clean sheet, Pickford will straight away be in the bonus points. He'll likely get some save points as well. So if you are making a goalkeeper transfer this week, although I don't think it's probably where you need to make a transfer, it's probably not a priority area. If you are, I like Pickford, and he's very cheap at 4.4 million with Bournemouth at home. Good clean sheet odds, good save potential, and then the bonus that we know he has as well. Moving into defence, and it is man that we've owned on and off throughout the season, and that is Timothy Castagne. Again, we're looking at a lot of, as we go through this draft, you'll notice two things. We're picking a lot of players from either teams that have something to play for on the final day, or we are picking players from teams that are at home on the final day of the season. Two things that I think are key to be picking a good differential on the final day, and Castagne is another one of those. So Leicester need to win at home to West Ham on the final day. West Ham, of course, have nothing left to play for. They are safe in the Premier League and still have that Europa Conference League final to be looking towards as well. Now, they did keep a clean sheet against Newcastle on Monday night. I don't necessarily think that there is a clean sheet in this one, but we saw Castagne again in Game Week 37 being in the box. He almost scored the winning goal for Leicester about 5 minutes before the end. And I think as a defender, he's an okay punt to go and do that. I don't think this week there are that many good punts that we should be going and buying unless there's rotation for the likes of Luke Shaw, Trent Alexander-Arnold, maybe a Stupinan, Trippier. If there's rotation, there are a couple of good options, but defensively it's probably not that much upside. But I do quite like Castagne, given his attacking threat that we've seen so far this season, plus his team and Leicester fighting for something on the final day. Now, next to him is a bit of a sentimental pick and a bit of rotation that I'm predicting in the Arsenal lineup, and that is Kieran Tierney. It looks like he's on his way out of Arsenal during the transfer window over the summer. It looks like Newcastle are highly linked with him. He hasn't played that many minutes, but he has been a good servant to Arsenal and a good servant to Arteta as well, given they don't have anything to play for. And Zinchenko, who is out of the squad, looks like he's out for the season. I think Tierney will be given the start on the final day just to give him his last play in an Arsenal shirt. Wolves at home. Wolves have looked okay, but they aren't as good away from home as they are at home. They don't have anything to play for on the final day. Arsenal, although they don't have anything to play for, yes, they'll be disappointing in the league. There are a few Arsenal players in this draft, and I really like how I still think they'll be putting on a show for the fans. They'll be fighting to, go out of the season on the high rather than what they've seen in the past few weeks. So I do think Arsenal will win this game quite comfortably, and I think Tierney could be a really nice differential pick. Then we go to Tarkowski, our second Everton player again. So we've got, you know, the home fixture of Tierney. We've got Castagne fighting for something, Pickford fighting for something, Tarkowski again fighting for something. We've seen that Everton, a lot of their goal rate comes from set pieces. It was Jeremina that scored in Gameweek 37. If you want to go with Jeremina, who looks like he's back in the Everton lineup again, then absolutely go for it. I think he could be a good pick for you. But I've gone with Tarkowski. He's just a little bit more nailed and consistently from goal threat, a little bit more from set pieces and things like that. So I've gone with him, but Jeremina could also work. Bournemouth are notoriously bad at conceding chances from set pieces and particularly crosses and aerial balls as well, which is when Everton, McNeil, Tarkowski, Jeremina, where Sean Dyche is going to want them to play on if they are going to get anything out of this game. They also know that they're likely to stay up with just a draw unless Leicester go and beat West Ham, which is probably unlikely, but it could happen. But even then, I don't expect this to be a very open game. I think Everton will want to keep it tight, keep it cagey at home, and then potentially go for something in the latter stages of the game if they know they need a win. If they only need a draw, then they're able to keep it tight, in which case Tarkowski will be good for a clean sheet and potentially for some bonus points as well. So those are the defenders. Moving in midfield is our third Everton player, and I have gone with McNeil. Now, he is on all set pieces. His open play threat is really good. He's top for expected goals under midfielders under 6 million or below. That is all driven by the game. He did get a lot of points against Brighton, so I understand that that data is very much skewed by that one game. But even outside of that, he has looked good. He has looked one of their main creative threats. Now, the goal threat isn't maybe as high consistently as maybe you get from the likes of Decore, who could also be a good punt. One of those others, maybe a Wobie, who's maybe got more goal threat, but I think the involvement that McNeil has, I think how they'll rely on set pieces in this one against Bournemouth, who are bad at conceding chances from set pieces, means I do like McNeil as a punt as our third Everton player in here, but unlikely to be the third Everton player in any of your drafts. Next to him is a big differential, but I just think he's going to start on the final day, and that is Garnacho of Manchester United at home to Fulham. I think they'll have the Champions League 4th place or 3rd place wrapped up on Thursday evening against Chelsea, where they only need a point, which means they have nothing really to play for on the final day, apart from keeping a little bit of rhythm for the FA Cup final, apart from maybe giving a few other people a run around. And I think Garnacho might be one of those players that gets a little bit of a run around on the final day. He's very cheap, he's very low owned, he is a big, big differential. When he plays, he is so direct, he's so attacking, he's selfish, which is not great from a Manchester United supporter's point of view, but it's great from an FPL perspective. And I think he's not necessarily a player you want to own for the long term, for the majority of the season. He's not necessarily a player that you think is going to start every week. But if you knew Garnacho was going to start in a game at home to Fulham on the final day, in their final home game, a week where there's more goals naturally than most other weeks, which is why punting on midfielders and attackers is a good way to do if you are chasing in your mini league, I think Garnacho could be a really, really nice punt. I don't think I'm going to be able to get him into my team, but he's really one I wish I could own. Then we go to Son. Now, this is probably an exception to the rule that they don't really have that much to play for and they are an away team. However, Spurs, in theory, if they win, they might still get in the Europa Conference League. It's up for debate whether they really want Europa Conference League in next season or actually they just prefer not to play in it, because we saw what they did this season in it. They didn't really care about it at all, to be honest. So Son is in here. Leeds did play a very high line in their past game as well. The space that I think Son will have getting in behind. If you remember last year, game week 38, Son was chasing down the golden boot. He did very well on the final day. It's not been Son's season, but I think he could do well in this one. He is quite expensive though. The issue with the likes of Kulusevski, Richarlison, I think there could be rotation between those two. Lucas Moura could even get a start out there, but I do think Son will start on the final day, and I do think that Leeds will have to go for this, and that could leave a lot of space in behind for the likes of Son. Then we go to Trossard, so the second Arsenal player we've got in here. Again, it's all about me thinking that I think they're going to put on a good display. I think they're going to win this game comfortably. They'll want to finish the season on a high in the final game of the season. It is a home fixture. Wolves don't have that much to play for. I've gone with Trossard. Now, Trossard could play left wing. He could end up playing up front if they don't play Gabriel Jesus. He could also be on the bench if they decide to play Smith Rowe or Nelson. There could be a lot of rotation in that Arsenal lineup, but I do think Trossard deserves his start with how well he's played majority of the season when he has been given minutes, and now Martinelli is out. I do think Trossard will start. Even if he's playing up front or on the wing, he's on some set pieces as well. He's getting a lot of assists. His involvement is really good when he starts. He's one that I'm looking at in my team if I need to bring in a midfielder this week. Next up is Rodrigo. Now, he did pick up a knock in game week 37, which means there is a chance that he's not available for Game Week 38, so do pay attention for the press conference if you do decide to buy him. However, those Leeds players know that they have to win at a minimum to get into the Premier League next season. So even if those players are not fully fit, I think the likes of Rodrigo, Bamford, if there's a chance, they'll play on the final day. I think this will be a very open game. I think this could be one of the highest scoring games of the weekend. Rodrigo, if Bamford's not fit, he could be playing up front. He could be on penalties. He's also on a lot of set pieces as well, which just means the haul potential for Rodrigo, given the way the Spurs are performing at the moment, could be absolutely massive. Again, he's quite a cheap one, quite easy to get into your team. If he's fit in the press conference, I really like him as a punt. Then moving up front, so as I said, I actually had to pick 8 attackers because I couldn't decide which of the sort of front 8 to drop. So we have got a front 8 here. The first forward we've got is Harry Kane, and a bit like Son, I think this will be a high-scoring game. If you could go to Harry Kane, he's not going to be that highly owned this week unless we get news that Erling Haaland is not going to start for Manchester City, in which case a lot of people like myself will move from Erling Haaland to Harry Kane. But if Haaland's going to start, there are not that many people who can get to Harry Kane because we'll have Fernandes, Salah and Haaland in our teams. The squad structure just doesn't allow it. And we've seen that in recent weeks that Kane's been continuing to score points, but his ownership has been dropping and dropping. So Kane at his price is hard to get to, but if you can afford him and he has a good fixture against Leeds, he could be a massive, massive differential, and he's having an incredible season. His most impressive, his best FPL season to date, that if you can get him in, I really like him. Now, next to him is Gabriel Jesus. Now, I'm unsure exactly if he's going to start this week, and I think there's a chance that Eddie Nketiah is given a run out, given how well he has done in the absence of Gabriel Jesus earlier on in the season. So if Nketiah starts, I really like him. If Gabriel Jesus starts, I really like him. So maybe worth paying attention to any early team news, a bit to the press conference about what Arteta maybe says about the two of them if they are asked. But the Arsenal forward, I think, could be a really good pick. Again, Wolves at home. I just think Arsenal will win this one. I think the crowd will be behind them. There's no pressure. They'll be allowed to go and play. They'll be allowed to go and celebrate what is still a fantastic season for Arsenal. So I do like Jesus. I like Nketiah if it's him as well at a cheaper price. And the final one is Ollie Watkins, a player that we've owned for the majority of the end of the season, and then we all sold him to go for our Newcastle forwards. As an Isaac owner, that has not paid off one bit at all. Isaac, I cannot wait to get out of my team, and Watkins is one of those players I'm looking at bringing to my team as a replacement for him. Watkins does have a difficult fixture on paper at home to Brighton. Now, Brighton actually have nothing to play for, whereas Aston Villa know if they win this game, they're going to qualify for European football for the first time in what feels like forever. Aston Villa, a team that is very focused around giving the ball to Watkins and letting him score goals, also potentially on penalties, although he did just miss one. It might not necessarily be Watkins that takes them, but that team is focused around giving Watkins the ball and allowing him to score goals and to score FPL points, and they know they are one of the teams that still has motivation going into the final day, unlike Brighton, who we might see a bit of rotation for on the final day. So this is a few of the good differential punts I like. There are a few of them that I'm considering going into my team. I might have to play it safe depending on where the rest of my week ends. But let me know, are you going really differential? How many points do you have to make up in your mini league on the final day? We are almost there. We have a couple of games to go. We have the Manchester City versus Brighton and Chelsea versus Manchester United before the final day, Game Week 38. There'll be one more video for me before a very long deadline stream on Sunday for Game Week 38, which will go up until after the deadline, looking at team news as well. So if you've enjoyed this video, if you found it useful, a little bit different from me, like the video and subscribe if you are new around here as well to get a reminder when things start up again for the next FPL season. We'll be back again. Thank you all so much for watching. Like and subscribe before you go, and I'll be back again very soon.